This is Phoebe Green and the Locker of Destiny, and we are on the very last chapter. Chapter 43, it's called Hello Trouble. Phoebe burst into Dorm 7. "I'm back," she said, diving onto her bed. Alice, Chloe and Jade bundled on top of her and squeezed her so tightly that Phoebe could barely breathe. Jessica was quiet and seemed nervous. She soon confessed that it was she who had stolen the Book of Difficult Questions. "I'm so sorry, Phoebe," she said. "Megan told me to, and you know how I find it hard to say no. She can be so scary." "Don't worry," Phoebe said. "Fresh start." She and Jessica hugged. Eager not to break a single rule, Phoebe asked for special permission to visit Mr. Grayson and waited patiently for a response from the school secretary. After dinner, she was given a torch and allowed 20 minutes. She sprinted across the lawn with the torch in her hand. Mr. Grayson was in his workshop, sharpening a pair of garden shears with a whetstone. When he saw Phoebe, he gave her a wide smile. "Hello, Trouble," he said. Phoebe pulled back the hood of a coat she'd borrowed from Alice. "Thank you a million billion times," she beamed at him. Mr. Grayson kept methodically sharpening his tools, drawing the stone against the blade. "It's fine, Phoebe," he said. "Don't think nothing of it." Phoebe sat on a wooden stool watching him work. "Tolf's inside if you want to go say hello," Mr. Grayson said. Phoebe swung her legs under the stool, her heels scraping against the wooden crosspiece. "I don't have long, but next time," she said. "I'll pay you back somehow." "I get a discount," he said, "for sending a family member to Perivale." "Well, that's what it's meant for. But Tolf ain't exactly right for Perivale, is he? I'm glad to get some use out of it." "But why?" she asked. "It's a lot of money for someone you hardly know." He held up his shears, and the freshly sharpened blade twinkled under a hanging bulb. He set them down and wiped his oily hands on a rag. "Nobody's looking out for you, Phoebe. I saw it when they brought you onto the lawn in a box in the middle of the night. And when you got stitched up with Sybil the cat the other night. It's not on. And if I'm honest, I stitched you up too. I don't feel good about it, and I knew I needed to do the right thing this time." Phoebe looked at him confused. "What do you mean?" Mr. Grayson walked over to the front of the workshop, checked outside, and saw that the front door to the cottage was closed. Phoebe looked up at a clock on the wall and saw that she only had 8 minutes until she was meant to be back. "Phoebe, that night you arrived, I remember it. I can't sleep in storms because we live in a thatched cottage, and if it gets hit by lightning, it'll go up in flames. There was a gap in me curtains, and a flicker of light shone on my bedroom wall. It weren't a torch or car headlights, it was green and purple. Weird it was. I pulled open the curtains, and there was a ball of light, as big as a house. I kid you not. Right there on the lawn, green rays poured out of it, purple too. At its centre was a white, sphere that I couldn't even look at. A few seconds later, the sky went dark again, and it was just a rainy old night." "What did you see?" Phoebe asked. She hopped down from her stool and stared at Mr. Grayson with her big green eyes. "I could barely see because of the bright flashes of light made me eyes all a-flicker, but I saw you scramble out of a box and run to the main building." Phoebe stood by the door, and she looked out onto the lawn. She tried to imagine what it must have looked like, this magical ball of light. "But when I asked you if you saw the locker, you said no," she said. He shook his head in shame. "I'm sorry, Phoebe. I thought I'd dreamed the old thing, or my eyes were playing tricks on me. Or maybe it was a prank and you girls had set off some fireworks. But the next morning, on the lawn, was a metal locker cabinet. I didn't know what to think. But one thing that never crossed my mind was that someone had arrived from the future. You can understand that, can't you?" She nodded. "So what did you do with it?" Mr. Grayson led Phoebe to the back of his workshop, where an object was covered with a bedsheet. He gave Phoebe a nervous look, then whipped off the cover like a magician. Phoebe gasped. There before her was a racing car. It was unlike any vehicle she'd ever seen, all bonnet with a hole for the driver right at the back. It looked like a bullet with wheels. She crouched beside it and ran her fingertip over the metal. It had been cut and curved and stitched back together into the most magnificent form, but it was unmistakably the Locker of Destiny. She even found the grill fins through which she had once looked at her matron's slippers. "I didn't know what it was," Mr. Grayson said apologetically, "and I wanted to make a car for Tolf's Christmas present. When you asked me if I'd seen it, I said no because I'd already cut it up. I thought it had been dumped, you see. But last night, when you told me the old story, I realised it weren't mine to chop up. So you believe me about time travel, she said. On top of a tool cabinet was a bundle of rags. Mr. Grayson unwrapped one to reveal a metal plate about the size of a postcard. He handed it to Phoebe. She brought it under a light so she could examine the black text. It said the name of the company which had produced it and had a long serial number which was stamped into the metal. It came off the locker, Mr. Grayson said. Look at the date of manufacture on the bottom right. Phoebe ran her fingers along the embossed lettering, clearing grease from it. It said 0599. That's the date, Mr. Grayson said. This locker wasn't made until 4 years from now. So you believe me, Phoebe said, her eyes wide. He nodded. Look, don't get your hopes up. I've sat in that thing to size it up and ain't no magic happened to me. But I believe you, Phoebe, and I'm going to help you get back home. Phoebe ran out of the workshop and sprinted across the lawn shouting woohoo at the top of her lungs. At the dorm room windows, silhouettes gathered, first in her room and then next door, and on the upper levels where the older girls lived. She stopped in the middle of the lawn and extended her arms, letting her forearms swing like the hands of a broken clock. Up in Dorm 7, Alice and the others cheered. Phoebe had faced the music. It was time to dance. So that was the end of Phoebe Green and the Locker of Destiny, and it's book 1 in a trilogy. So you can now get The Missing Kitten. It's on Amazon right now. Let me show you what it looks like. In the next book in the series, Phoebe's basically found the Locker of Destiny, and so she sets about trying to make her way back home, but as with all things in Perivale, it's not that simple. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed Phoebe Green and the Locker of Destiny. Please like and subscribe this channel, and hopefully I'm going to read more books. If I get enough followers, I will do so. In the meantime, I hope you get this book, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this trilogy.